Well, hey guys, welcome to Endless Summer, Week 1, Part 1. I want to give you a little bit of the history behind this series and what's going on. But I also just wanted to say, I kind of wanted to film this at the beach, but kind of chose for the more controlled environment. So here I am back at our town home. We have people staying in the third floor where we shot a bunch of videos, Kelsey's family. And so here I am in our bedroom and just wanted to show you a little bit of the behind the scenes of what's going on. We got our plants up there. We've got like junk all around my feet and our sign. And, like we're right here in the bedroom with some lights and, the camera on the bed and the whole thing that's going on. So, but wanted to give you kind of a live in on what's happening. I was a little bit weird in this sense. I mean, my whole story about why this series is what it is, it kind of begins when I was 6. When I was 6, that was my first time to ever go to the ocean, and my parents loaded us up, and we drove 24 hours to Daytona Beach, Florida, where we spent the next 6 days splashing in the waves and playing and having a blast. And I fell in love with the beach. I remember I was this weird kid. We began to do this every single year. After that, we would go, there'd be one week in June where we'd load up and we'd go to Daytona Beach, and that was my 1 week to go to the beach every single year, and I lived for it and loved it. And this is where I'm a little bit weird. The final day, the 7th day of our trip every year, we would go to Disney. And most little kids would be like, oh yeah, I love Disney, I want to go to Disney, my kids and everything. And I cried the whole day. I don't know whether it was I didn't like Disney or I didn't like leaving the beach. I loved the beach. I loved the ocean, and knew that God wouldn't always have me in a landlocked area, that I'd be next to the sea. So I as life progressed and as we lived next to the sea, I got into surfing, and I've always kind of been into surf films. And there's this classic from the 1960s called The Endless Summer, and it's got colors and everything that just seemed to be in. And it's about a couple of guys who chase the perfect wave around the planet, always being in summer, which the irony is waves are good in the winter. But they were chasing the endless summer. And so I was like, man, that would be a cool series title. That would be a cool message series if we did the endless summer and used some of the graphics. And then a sister church of ours up in Carmel Valley called Reve, I noticed on their social media one day that they had taken my idea. No, they didn't take it. But they started an Endless Summer series, and they had come up with the best graphic I'd ever seen for it. And I was like, guys, I contacted them, like, guys, I got to have that graphic. We've got to do an Endless Summer of our own, because, see, our plan at this stage is we're walking through the book of Mark. Okay, we're going through the book of Mark, and there's just geography is important to Mark, and where Jesus does his, like we did Sheltered at Home back when this thing began, and we just said, hey, home was a context of Jesus's private ministry where he did some of his most important miracles and some of his most important teaching and some of those other things. But honestly, the Sea of Galilee, the water, is also a very important part in the first few chapters of Mark of Jesus's public ministry. It's where he did some incredible things as well. And so our plan was we just call it Vista Del Mar, which, was our venue where we met at as a church. And we would just do a series called Vista Del Mar, View of the Sea. And we would talk about the teachings of Jesus besides the Sea of Galilee. And but we're not back in Vista Del Mar yet. Here we are. I'm still shooting in my bedroom. And there's something about summer that's marked by water, isn't there? There just is. And I was like, well, let's just call it the Endless Summer. And so here we are, beginning week 1 of the Endless Summer, and we're going to talk about some of the just incredible stories and incredible things that Jesus did in his public ministry besides the Sea of Galilee. And so you just got to forgive me, or forgive me. I've got to forgive you if you're not a beach or pool person. I know for me, there's something about summer marked by water. We're just at the pool and the beach as much as we possibly can. And I'll forgive you if you're not that kind of person. But there's just something about it. And the thing that we kind of see from the book of Mark is that the sea, it's really characterized by about three things in this public ministry of Jesus. It's characterized by terror, which we're going to actually look at in week 1. It's characterized by tranquility, where Jesus did some really cool teachings in a tranquil setting. And it's characterized by transition. Because we see some things that ended up happening besides the Sea of Galilee, that was a moment in a time of transition for Jesus where he could no longer be there and would have to carry on his ministry elsewhere. So for the next few weeks, we're going to look at those things. We're going to look at terror, we're going to look at tranquility, and we are going to look at transition as we continue to go through the book of Mark. But I want to share with you a little bit about the first story that we're going to look at today, and we're going to look at it way more in depth this weekend. But the first story is that we're going to look at is out of Mark chapter 4. And it's where Jesus and his disciples, they get in a boat and they set sail to go across the Sea of Galilee to a different region. They're leaving the Jewish territory and they're entering into the Gentile territory. And while they head across the lake here, or the sea, in Mark chapter 4, a huge squall comes up. And a squall is a storm. And these storms, specifically in deeper water, we're going to talk more about it in a few days, but these squalls, specifically in deeper water, would have claimed many lives. And the Jews, specifically the Jews, the disciples of Jesus this time, would have been terrified of the sea. They would have been terrified of the deeper waters. They would have been terrified of some of these things and these places where Jesus was leading them. And we learn that they take off, and they've just finished all this teaching. They've just finished all this ministry. They've just finished all this stuff that's going on, and they take off in the boat, and a squall comes up that they couldn't have predicted. And this squall has them fearing for their lives. And in the moment where they're the most scared, Jesus is in the back of the boat sleeping. And the thing we're going to talk about this weekend doesn't it seem like sometimes, I don't know, I felt like this for me, but doesn't it seem like sometimes that in some of the most chaotic, some of the most hectic, some of the most controversial times, even in times like now, it seems like, man, we're like, Jesus, what are you doing? There's a squall in my life. There's a storm in my life. And it seems as though you're in the back of my boat sleeping at this time. And so that's where we're going to go this first week. And we're going to talk about the endless summer. We're going to talk about the storms that are coming in life, the storms that are coming in your life and in my life. Because the thing I would say, and I'm going to say again, is the thing about this story is it's my story. The thing about this story of the disciples being in the boat is it's your story. Because the way we're going to say it is this: storms come. Yet that doesn't mean Jesus doesn't care. Jesus still cares. And as we say at Church 180 all the time, turn towards hope. There is always hope when Jesus is in the boat. There just is. There's always hope when Jesus is in the boat. So I hope that you'll join us for the continuation of this message this weekend, Sunday morning at 10 a.m. It'll be on Facebook and YouTube. It'll be premiering there. But we would love, you want to have a conversation with your church family, we would love to have you at church180sd.online.church as we talk about the fact that there is always hope when Jesus is in the boat. So I hope you'll tune in with us on Sunday morning.